Hello and welcome to Look Down There, the show where we talk about all the things we don't talk about. I'm your host, Michelle Lamore. Today, my guest is the owner of Chicago's oldest and longest running sensual movement studio, Bombshell. She has 16 years of experience coaching women to reclaim their voices, stand in their power, and own their pleasure. And she just designed a new virtual community called Hive exclusively for women over 40. So yes, we will definitely be talking about that. Please welcome my guest today from Chicago, Leslie Lyons. Hi, Leslie.
Hi, Michelle. I can't tell you how excited I am. You know, I love you, adore you, low key halfway worship you. Like, you are my burlesque muse. You were my first burlesque teacher. Well, actually, Lady Ginger was my first burlesque teacher, but your studio was my first advent into burlesque. And so I was in student shows with you. Like, I have always adored and respected your work. So when you reached out, I was like, swoon, fangirl. Of course I want to be on her show. So I'm glad you're doing well and thank you for having me.
Oh, that is so nice to hear. Yes, I remember you. We met many years ago at my studio, Studio L'Amour, and you were always so fun to have in class. Like, I loved your energy. I loved your vibe. And so, I definitely remembered you and kind of see you pop up on my feed here and there. And so when I saw that you were doing Hive, I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. Let's talk about it. This would be great for the podcast. So happy that worked out.
I am too. Thank you again.
Yes. So Leslie, what brought you here to pursue pleasure in your own life, but also spread the good word of pleasure?
Yeah. I feel like I came to pleasure through the route of looking for power. For me, as someone who grew up in a military family, so my dad is, you can make a bed in 2.1 seconds, like, get it up, soldier. It's Saturday morning, sleeping in at 6 o'clock. So I came from a very regiment, male-oriented patriarchy environment. Love my father. He loves us to death, but he was very rigid, very structured, and very much so into gender norms too. Like, women do this, like my mom. She went on to be with the Lord a couple of years ago, but she never worked. I lied. She worked 2 days in her life, and my dad got her fired from that job because he followed her around. She was 16 years old, and he followed her around the store, and the owner was like, what the hell? Like, what is going on? So he got her fired from that job.
Oh my God.
So she went on to have 6 children. I'm the oldest of 6. And they would have been married when she passed 48 years. And so I knew what it was like, though, as doting as my dad was, as protective as my dad was, there was a dark side to that. And the dark side of that was control. And I grew up as a little girl looking at my mother not through the best lens, to be candid. I felt like, man, she doesn't even really control us. And she did have influence, but as a little kid, all I could see was my domineering dad and how he presented and positioned himself. And so I wanted power very early. I was like, you're not going to control me the way you do, Mom. So at 4 years old, I have stories of me being outspoken and searching for power. But I was searching for power in very masculine ways. So fast forward to me moving into corporate. I was in HR for a while, then I moved into a very competitive field of selling. Also very male dominated. And everything around me, it's funny that we're doing this interview right now. I call my Come to Jesus meeting was actually September 11th, 2001.
Yes, same for me.
Was it really?
Yes. So I just had a really intense experience just recently, right? Because we just passed September 11th, and I was like having all of these emotions. I was very, really tender, really sensitive. But yes, tell me about your experience.
Oh my goodness. So that was my come to Jesus moment. That was like my epiphany. I was doing really well in my career. Like I was making almost $200,000 as a fat Black woman in a very male dominated, white, heteronormative space. I had carved out a space, but baby, I had clawed it. So I was bruised, I was battered, I was tired. My relationship, I was married and am still married to the same guy. But there was no connection there. My relationship with my daughter was crumbling. Like I was destitute emotionally and spiritually. And so it took a situation with my husband having an emotional affair for me to start looking at myself. Not for him, because I was ready to pack his shit up and tell him to go. I called his mama. Okay, Michelle.
You know you're in trouble when that happens.
Like, you can come get him. Like, but it was so much going on at the same time. So rewind to September 11th. So my husband had this emotional affair that I had found out about. I'm trying to navigate if I'm going to stay, if I'm going to go, what am I going to do here? And I'm just so burdened and so brittle and so destitute. September 11th, I'm driving in. The world is falling apart, right? But I'm in my little green expedition driving to Hoffman Estates. You're from Chicago, so you know. We lived in Humboldt Park, so the northwest side of the city. Going to Hoffman Estates was still about an hour ride.
Yeah.
So I'm in the car, I'm hearing what's happening. The planes have hit, all the things, but it's not impacting me at all. I park, I walk into the office, and everybody's just standing around because people don't know what to do. They've rolled a TV into the bullpen area, and everyone's just watching. Michelle, I'm embarrassed to say it, but this is my truth. I walked in and I'm like, why are we standing around? We've got money to make. We've got phone calls to make. Why are we standing around? I was that cold. I was that hardened. And that's what happens when you disconnect from pleasure. You become callous. You become cold. We need masculine energy to get certain things done. But as a woman, to park your life into that, it ain't good. So from that day on, I got fired from that job, by the way, like a few days later because of my response. It was just so cruel. It was just like, whoa, we can't have someone in leadership that is this distant. And it was other shit that was going on, but that was it. It was like, you're done. So I had a few weeks to really kind of sit with myself and ask myself some tough questions. And so during those few weeks that I was sitting there asking myself tough questions, I ran across a woman called Sheila Kelly. And so Sheila was on Oprah doing this Release Your Inner Sex Pot show and was like, this is how you get power and this is how you connect and this is how you revitalize. And I was like, and she's on a pole. Now your audience can't see me, but they need to know I've always been over 250 pounds. Like I've never been a little girl, but I was like, I can get my ass on that pole. I can do this. And it wasn't so much about the pole. It was about what she was saying, how it transformed her life and the lives of other women. Well, she was a very small situation then. And just like Oprah, it blew her up like Oprah does, the Oprah effect. But for me, it blew me open to start looking for ways to start to fill my cup. Because if I was going to leave my husband, I had lost my high paying job, I was going to need to fill my own cup. That started me on my plate. Very long story.
No, it's
to
great. It's
what
wonderful.
started what
Yeah.
started me to figuring out, like, if you're going to break this hard shell that you've built, this prison you've built, start
Hmm.
seeking some tools.
Oh, yeah. You got to dig yourself out of that. Yeah, for sure. September 11th was a big life-changing day for me as well, because I was studying finance.
Mm.
And so that day I was supposed to have like a career fair, and like all these companies that were just tragically affected by all of this just shut down everything. Um, I was horrified by everything, but the thing that I thought of was like, were these people happy?
Mm.
Were these people going to work every day and following their passion and following their dreams? And maybe some, yes, but the likelihood is maybe not, because that's kind of what we do. That's an adult. You do the things you don't want to do, and dreams are for kids and passions for kids, and that woke me up, and I was like, oh, I don't like finance. I've never liked finance. Like I got into it because my mom was like, you should do that. And I was good at math. And so I was like, okay. And I tried to do the thing. I went to the interviews. I wore the suits. I tried to convince myself that I didn't want what I wanted. And so that day was big for me because it made me realize, oh, my dreams are important. My passions are important. And that's what I want to do. And so I continued on. It was my last year of college, and I got my degree. But after that day, I left my boyfriend in like 2 weeks. And, that was really scary because I didn't have a family at that time. I was disowned, one of many times I've been disowned. But yeah, I was like on my own, like completely.
And how old were you?
I must have been 21. Yeah, just
Wow.
21.
Wow.
Yeah.
A baby.
Yeah, just a little baby.
Yeah.
But then cut to 2 years after that, me doing my first strip tease on stage and going, oh, that's what I'm doing.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Well, thank you for
And I was
sharing.
going to ask that. I was going to ask, were you doing burlesque as a hobby or anything at that time? You found burlesque.
No, I was dancing. I really wanted to dance and not do finance. So I was still dancing on the side. And then I got like kind of shortly after that, near graduation, I got a call from my old ballet teacher, and she said, hey, do you want to come back and teach? And I was like, yep. And I canceled all my interviews. I had like second interviews with companies, and I was like, nope, I'm not doing that. I'm going to go be a poor artist. I've done okay.
Yeah, you have.
So I love what you were talking about with this, the idea of power and like what we think power looks like, because we have such a patriarchal view and value of what power is. Like power is control, right? Power is power over. Power is ruling with fear. It's almost like thinking about power. It's like a bad word, like you can react really viscerally just to that word, power. Like, where does that, somatically live in your body, right? But so then when you think about reclaiming your power and, how do you encourage women specifically to reclaim their power in a way that maintains, like matriarchal values or feminine energy without crossing over into, because a lot of times female power can look like acting like a man, right? Yeah. Like, I got my suit on, I'm hard and I'm ready and I'm here. But like, what can it look like?
Yeah, such a great question. I did an episode on my podcast called Patriarchy in a Skirt. And I really did that when I started coaching, I started going back into more traditional corporate spaces, being more around more corporate women in a pure environment, not them sitting on my mat or swinging around a pole in a studio environment where I'm kind of like leading that, but where we were sitting together. And I found like these women are terrified of their sexuality, their sensuality. They're not connected to it at all. Femininity is not, they say they want it because these are circles that are feminine leadership circles. But I'm like, really what they are, they're replicating male behavior. They've just put some lipstick on.
Yep.
Right? Flow is still frowned upon. Emotions are still frowned upon. Femininity, so cleavage, being cute, lashes, nails, those sorts of things are still like, that's not really professional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What the fuck am I here for then? I thought we were talking about what it means. To me, feminine power is using your femininity, which is also something that burlesque celebrates. It is using your intuition and your knowing that men just don't have. Yes, I'm being stereotypical. I know it, but it's the truth. They are compartmentalized in their thinking. We are so smart. We are so sensitive. Like even like our senses, how we hear, we can hear things that men just cannot hear. We can hear octaves and smell, all the things. Mm-hmm. Like just how we're designed, we're just more in tune. And our feelings, which are shunned in corporate environments or in more masculine environments, I should say, is really our superpower. But here's the key. Everybody talks about intuition, Michelle. Everybody talks about knowing. Glennon Doyle, thank you for the book. Everybody wants to talk about knowing. But what's being left out of the conversation is what you and I know so well is the body. Somatically, you will not think your way to power. You will not think your way to confidence. You must experience it in your body. So for me, when I thought about this conversation around power for women, I wanted them to know that there's power in their very design. A woman's hips can start a war and end one. I love to share the story of there was a biblical king named King Herod, whose wife wanted power, but she sent her younger daughter out to dance for him. We don't know what the dance was. We don't know if it was a striptease. We don't know if it was a belly dance. But what we do know is he was so fucking hypnotized that he waged political war and had one of the prophet's heads chopped off for it. At the request, he said to the girl, whatever you want, you can have. That is the power of your femininity. She didn't sleep with him. She didn't touch him. She was in her body, in her juices. And he was so fucking confused and bewildered that he basically killed himself, with his decision. But that is a powerful, extreme example, though, of what it's like to be magnetic. Mm-hmm. And you can't get more powerful than to actually be able to determine life and death for somebody. To be able to nurture, to be able to have control and sovereignty over your decisions. You want to connect through your knowing, you've got to connect to your body. And to connect to your body, we can't do it in CrossFit.
No.
It's got to be pleasure filled. That's my thesis. People throw rocks at me all the time. I'm here for the rocks. But I've just seen too many women's lives since 2007 when I started my studio change because of that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much in there because, I've seen that divorce from feminine energy, but I feel that we all need healing in that area, not just women, but like we all need to connect to this divine feminine. But fuck, is it scary? And it's scary because it's so fucking powerful.
Exactly.
It's fucking powerful. And the thing that I say, like, about the patriarchy, right, is like, don't let them put your box in a box. It's like they know your power, but we don't. Yeah. They know our power so much that it has to be squashed and imprisoned and made bad, but we don't see it that way. We believe it. Mm-hmm. And it's,
I have a teacher, her name is Kelly Deals. She is a feminist marketing strategist, and I've studied under her for a few years. And one of the things she always says is that, to your point of we all need healing, she always says we're all in the water. So we're all getting wet.
Yeah. We're all in it. And it's interesting to see, how the patriarchy affects your life and how it shows up in you and how you relate to others. And that's something that I'm really picking up on lately, is like, oh, I think these things because that's just been what I've learned, or that's just been my conditioning. And oh, there is another way. And oh, I didn't realize that that's why I did that, because that was my conditioning, And so it takes a lot of unlearning.
It does.
And, like, yes, we are all in the water. I always say, like, we're in the same soup. Like, we're all marinating. We just can't even, we can't even see. Like, it just becomes the air that we breathe, right? And patriarchy is good for no one.
It isn't. That's the point.
Yeah.
Not for men folk, not for woman folk, not for non-binary folk. It ain't good for nobody.
Nope.
And I think so thank you for bringing that out, because it's like, it is a collective healing. Mm-hmm. But I say, we all got our assignment, and mine's happen to have titties. So I like, my lane is these women, because they have more power than they think than they know.
Yes. And, it is so gratifying. Like, I'm a teacher. It is so gratifying to see that come out in others. But one of the things that I struggled with in my early days is believing more in other people's power than my own. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious if you have experienced that. One of the things that I felt, I was on stage, I felt powerful on stage, but I felt safe. I felt safe on stage, surprisingly, as I'm getting naked. Like, I felt like
the stage is your own, but the stage is yours. You own the stage.
It's my space. It's my space. This is what I want to say. This is what I'm doing. Like, yes, it can be scary, whatever, but off stage, it took me a long time to figure out how to have the confidence that I had on stage, off stage. Mm-hmm. So, and to bring those together. But have you experienced things like that where, like, oh, it's just so much easier to hold up the mirror to someone else than to hold it up to myself?
Oh God, yeah. The first thing I will say to that point is around conditioning. Women are conditioned to cheerlead. We are conditioned to nurture. Mm-hmm. So it's very easy for us to look at you, Michelle, and I see all your brilliance, all your potential, and celebrate that, but not let you be a mirror to me. Mm-hmm. Just pour out in service to you. We're in service to others a lot. And so that's a natural thing for us to do. But to be in service to ourselves requires a special type of grace, a special type of patience, a special type of compassion and kindness. And that's harder because you're with you. I talk about performative sexuality, and we have to be careful in burlesque, sensual, and pole spaces, especially because we talk a lot about curating confidence, creating spaces for women to become more confident. We don't want to help women develop bravado. We want true confidence, because bravado is situational
Mm-hmm.
And I always felt as if women were only confident inside of my studio walls, I have failed. If you can only run around in your booty shorts and your pasties inside of my walls, but then you can't wear a swimsuit on the beach, I failed you. Like, we haven't done the real work yet. So for me, the conditioning makes it difficult to be confident when you're out of your safe space, to use your term for sure. And doubt, doubt and who's in your circle. Like, who are you talking to? I shared a story on my podcast recently about one of my very first students. And this is something that was jarring to me as a Black woman, to be honest, because what her husband said to her, I found out later on. White women have these types of conversations all the time. I don't know many Black women whose husband would get away with calling them a fat cow. Like, and he'd go to sleep that night. There's abusive men, but it would be a fight. It wouldn't be like, I'm coming home to make you dinner. And that was one of the situations with one of my students very early on. And I thought to myself, wow, she's doing all this juicy work here, but she's going home to a man who she just had a baby 8 weeks ago.
Oh my God.
Who's calling her such a derogatory, demeaning name. And she's in there dying to get skinny. That's why she's in pole, because she wants to lose weight. She needs to get back to her pre-baby body for this idiot. So the toxicity, we're up against so much. We've got our own conditioning, right? Societal pressure. We've got our own hangups and insecurities. And then we might have people in the periphery that are feeding into that. I had that as well. Like I said, I started it by saying being a fat Black woman. What does that look like to not be conventionally beautiful? Now, I think I'm absolutely fucking gorgeous and absolutely magnetic, but I've run up against people who didn't agree, right?
Yeah.
Like, what does it mean to be obese? This was before Lizzo. Lizzo is a new phenomenon. I need people to realize this. I've been fat and Black for a long time. It's a new phenomenon. And I had to start to say, I don't care what you think. It's about how I feel about my body. What do I love? What do I appreciate? And burlesque and pole and sensual movement puts that on full display for women. Whereas on our own, we might see every flaw, but in intentionally curated spaces, we start to discover the beauty that is unique to you. Mm-hmm. I remember your alopecia journey and how brave that was, because that is appreciation for this is the body I'm in.
Yeah.
And I'm still gorgeous, and I'm still going to own this fucking stage, and I'm still going to, that's real. And so many women won't get there on their own. They need community to do that in.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Community is so important when you are working towards these changes, because just like you said, you can do all the work in a class, but if you go home and you're surrounded by negative reinforcement, it's going to take you right down. Like, you have to have community. And, I'll say that knowing that we just went through a really intense period of time where we didn't have face-to-face community. And we all did our best to make it a virtual community and all of that. But still, knowing people were maybe living with people who were not supporting what they were trying to do, and, the kinds of pressures and obstacles that creates. And what I've found, like, if there is such an absence of actual people to support in your personal life, I've found that seeking out books And reading can be really helpful because it's just that repetition. It's just that like having it fed back to you and feeling like, you're not alone in your thoughts, right? You're not alone in your efforts.
Absolutely. We've got development that we can do personally, and then there's healing that happens communally.
Mm-hmm.
And that community can be virtual. It can be in person. It could be your small circle group of friends.
Mm-hmm.
But healing, true healing, I don't believe is devoid of community.
No.
It has to happen. Now you get to choose the community, right? But if one thing that lockdown taught us was how vital, the most introvert of introverts was losing their mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because as human beings, we're designed for relationship. And so, yeah, I hope that answers the question. I just feel like there's so much there
Mm-hmm.
for women.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And on your note of validation, I think for so long, especially if you're in performance, right? You're used to that external validation all the time. But there's nothing that really is lasting about that because validation has to come from the inside.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello. If you live for the applause, you'll die when it's taken from you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah. And as performers, no, I want applause. I'll probably be going back on stage in a couple of weeks. I expect for applause. I want it. I demand it. My presence is going to require it. However, if the zipper gets stuck, if the glove don't come off easily, I am not a failure. I believe in myself, and I'm kind enough to myself that even if y'all motherfuckers don't clap, I'm clapping for myself.
Exactly. And, because I'm performing in Vegas now, constantly, I get all sorts of audiences who people who've never seen anything like that ever before, don't know what's happening, to people who are really appreciative. So, there's 2 acts that I'm doing currently in this space. One is my Panther act,
which is so sexy.
So that's super fun for me, but it's also so intense and very provocative. And I get, and I perform with my shaved head. And to me, I'm well, that's such a coup. I get to buck some beauty standards in Vegas. That's incredible. And then my second act is the complete opposite of the Panther. It's a very cutesy, pink and fluffy showgirl. I'm a chorus line of one. It's really, it's so funny. But seeing people just stare at me, I just end up laughing at them. I don't take it personally. I'm just oh, honey. Honey, I'm going to put my butt in your face. Because at least I'm going to be entertained. If you're not entertained, I am entertained.
That's right. I'm not doing this. And even as a performer, there's this art that I'm learning, even still learning, of inward focus and external focus.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And the dance between the two.
What feels good, what looks good. It's very different.
Yeah. Yeah. But even energetically, going a layer below that, energy. Am I going to let the front row frowner impact how I'm showing up? What does that look like? How do you dance with that? And that's a skill that is only learned through performing. I really believe that. It's the quickest way through your body to learn how to nurture yourself against hostility. Mm-hmm. If women learn that, what does that unlock for them in so many other parts of their life?
Yes.
How to stand 10 toes and not have your personhood chipped away. Mm-hmm. And then I think about my sisters who are actual strippers, where it is vile, nasty, dangerous, all the things, even more so amped up for them. How do you keep your dignity when someone's saying the most disgusting thing they can ever think of to say to you?
Yeah.
Or threatening your very life? To be able to maintain dignity in spaces like that, you can't ever hold that woman down.
Yeah.
If she masters that, if she doesn't succumb to it, if it's not fake, but if it's true groundedness, baby, look out, world.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I hear lots and lots of stories about places like that. And I don't know how they handle it. Some handle it very well. Others really do not. Right. I've never done that. I've never been in that environment. I've always been in the burlesque realm. But yeah, I don't feel that I could handle it. Like, I don't have like the personality to like, because I would just be going off on people. Like, to me, it's a very customer focus. Like,
your money depends upon you liking me.
Yeah. Like, I'm not good with customer service. I feel like that's a very customer service job. Like, you know, even when people ask me in the space where I'm performing where the bathroom is, I'm like, how dare you? You know, I'm just like, I can't handle it. I get so upset.
You said, how dare you?
Yeah. Like, I just had this incident the other day. I was walking through and someone said like, hey, and I'm like in full showgirl regalia. And I stop and I turn around and he like comes around the doorway and it's just me and him. And he's just staring at me and I'm staring back at him. And I'm just like, what? And he said, what's over here? I said, more stuff. And I turned around and left.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, I'm not dealing with you, creep.
I can't deal with the customer. So
can we pause for 1 second? I got a bio break. I thought I was going to make it through.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
No worries.
We'll be done shortly.
Yeah. You're not here for the shenanigans. You are not here to show people around the club.
No. Someone actually asked if I was the bathroom attendant. I was just like, what?
People are crazy.
Yeah. So, you know, it's not for me. I know my strengths. It's fine. Okay. So on that note, on community, tell me about Honey Hive and why you decided to create that.
Yeah, thanks. So Honey Hive is a hybrid virtual and in-person community specifically designed for women over 40 who are looking to infuse their lives with pleasure. I decided after owning a studio, like I said, I've owned a studio since 2007. I have 2 studios here now. I just sold Bombshell about 4 months ago. And so, but I still have another studio that's in the South Loop. But after years of working with women, I come to find that once women get over 40, shit starts to get real. And there's a lot of things that are going on hormonally, neurologically. There is support things that are changing, like divorces, empty nest things are starting to happen, menopause, hysterectomies, breast cancer. Like, there's so much that starts happening in a woman's life. And it's pivotal that she feels good about these changes. One thing that I was not aware of that I'm very aware of now is that feeling of invisibility, where when you were young and hot and had all the attention and all the things and everybody was pulling on you and you just felt radiant, that fire starts to dim for some women after 40. Because some of it is society, but some of it is actually the changes that are happening in our body. And I was seeing more and more women coming into my pole dance studios that were looking to reclaim their youth and I'm going to be very careful about how I say this, but it needs to be said. I am aging and I'm absolutely fine with it. It is a privilege that is denied to many. Whereas some women are fighting it tooth and nail to the point that is harmful to them. Mm-hmm. And I was seeing women who were coming to pole dance class because they felt as if I became a fake stripper. This would allow me to reclaim something that I've lost. Now, my studio isn't like that. We gonna be real stripper, first of all. Mm-hmm. We're not going to be fake about anything. And we're going to do it. We're going ass titties all out. But no, but it's so much more about the conversation about the why you're here, what this is going to do for you spiritually and emotionally, so that you can embrace who you are now. Yeah, we can always improve. Yeah, we can always, but it's done from a place of, I feel good about where I am now, not from a deficit. Mm-hmm. I want to get better, but I don't hate who I am now. And I found that work for women over 40 became more difficult when there were younger women in the room. Sure. I'm on a podcast where I'm able to just say the truth and not sugarcoat it, so I'm going to say it. But there was a little bit of tension there. Mm-hmm. Because she represents what I lost. Or what you think you lost. Because I don't feel like you lose. I feel like you're gaining as you get older. But that visual reminder of what my abs looked like, what my boobs looked like, what my butt looked like, became kind of difficult, the visual reminder. But then the conversation is not the same when you're 40 to someone who's 21.
No.
So it was even bigger than even the visual stuff. Was just this child. I have a child her age over there. Like, she has no clue what it's like to have a hysterectomy, or she has no clue of what it's like to have her kids go off to college and for her to be alone. Like, so I just saw the need for a curated space so that women could talk about these things and be vulnerable. Just a brave space where we could say, yeah, me too. Yeah, me too. And heal, like we said earlier, in community. So we have pleasure rituals, because I'm like, so many women need to make pleasure a part of their daily lives. So there's a part of it that is very ritualistic, and some of them are sexual pleasures. Some of them are just sensual pleasures. The majority of them are sensual pleasures, like recognizing beauty and other things every day, all day. Sensory practices to just turn your skin and your body on, your lotion. So just basic pleasure rituals. And there's sex magic stuff in there too, and those sorts of things. But there's a pleasure piece of it. And then movement, because somatically, I believe that you have to get this in your body, and movement helps you do that. And then you've got the community of women that are right there with you, that are supporting us as we grow together to the next level. So it's a mixture of ritual, movement, and community.
Beautiful. I love it.
Thank you.
I love it. Yeah, it's so important. Doing this work myself, this has been my greatest teacher. So I'm curious, what has been one or a few of the greatest lessons that you've learned while doing this work?
Oh my gosh, so many. That's a great question. I don't think all the podcasts I've been on, I've never been asked that question. I think one of the major learnings is that you can't heal alone. Like, healing must happen in community. And there is beauty in everyone and everything. And when I can see beauty in everyone and everything, I can see it in myself by default. When I learn to hold beauty and reverence and other things, I find my beauty too. Mm-hmm. It changes literally how you see things, how you relate to other people, that dynamic. And that's such a tender thing. It's such a tender thing to be able to extend that to other people, but more importantly, to extend it to yourself. So I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
No, thank you for asking. I was like, I've never been asked that question.
Okay, Leslie, where can people find you, study with you? Where is the Hive?
Yes, where's
about
that?
it?
Well, Leslie D. Lyons is the main hub of all things movement, because my primary business now is coaching. I do business coaching and specifically sales confidence coaching. So Leslie D. Lyons is my main website. They can check me out there. But the Hive, we open up once a quarter, and you can find that at the honeyhive.life. The honeyhive.life. So not .com.life. If you go to .com, I don't know where the hell you're going to go. Mm-hmm. But it's the honeyhive.life. And you can put your name on the wait list. You'll start getting some pleasure rituals just for free, just to kind of get you started until we open the doors to the community again.
Nice. And are you on Instagram?
I am Leslie D. Lyons.
All right.
Honeyhive Leslie.
At Honeyhive Leslie?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Well, Leslie, Queen Bee, thank you for having me. Thank you for coming on this podcast and sharing your truth and your vulnerability and your wisdom. Thank you.
Oh, Michelle, thank you. Forever my muse.
Okay, everybody, it's time for you all to spread the word, spread the love, tell your friends, tell your lovers, and everyone in between. Go and follow Leslie D. Lyons and check out the honeyhive.life. And you can follow us here at I Look Down There, or me at Michelle L'Amour. And remember that confidence comes from the bottom up. So grab a mirror and look down there. Till next time.